Hey everybody, welcome back to Faraday Research, and I'm doing this video because of what happened on the weekend. Now, I've said in previous videos about electrical safety, okay? We're dealing with extremely high voltages, okay? So if you have a pacemaker, you have a hearing aid, or any kind of radiological device in your body, don't get involved, okay? Take it from me right now. Don't worry about it. I've got a lot of videos there on pulse motors. You can work with the pulse motors. Right now, I'm working with the Don Smith generator. But now we're dealing with super high power. Okay, so on the weekend, I gave myself the shock of my life. I knew I was going to get shocked. I just didn't know how bad. And I'll tell you the reason why I'm able to tell this story right now, and the fact that, if you do it another way, you very well could kill yourself. All right. So what I did was, here's the spark gap right here, positive, negative, and that goes to the ground. What I did was I grabbed with my two fingers on either side and got the shock of my life. Okay. The reason why I'm still alive to tell about it is the one hand rule. Okay. Voltage can only travel so far up your body if it only hits one spot. If it's positive and then a negative, and you touch it and become part of the circuit, it'll travel. Like me, it only traveled up to my wrist, but it still cramped my hand up pretty good there. And it gave me a good lifter. So take it from me, don't fuck around. Obviously I feel a lot more confident than the average person around this stuff. Fine. If you're not confident with using this high voltage, stay away from it, okay? Take it from me, because I had 6,400 volts at 30 milliamps, okay, go through me. Technically, if I grabbed it with my left hand and my right hand at the same time, we would not be having this conversation right now. I'd be freaking dead. I'd be fried and I'd be freaking dead. Okay? So one hand rule all the time. The other safety thing, when you're working in a circuit that you're dealing with high voltage and you don't know the kind of reaction you get, number one, have safety glasses on. Number two, take your power supply that controls the system a couple feet away. And that way, if something goes awry, you've got some distance on you. And number two, you can shut off the power unit without any difficulty. Okay? So safety first when you're dealing with this stuff, because it will kill you. All right? From the bottom of my heart, if you're not confident, stay away from this. Go work on the pulse motors. I'll be doing more stuff on the pulse motors in the near future anyways. There's some stuff I'd like to try with that, integrating the Don Smith generator with that. We'll see where that leads to. Okay, now that I got that shit out of the way, I want to get into a little bit of electrical theory here. Okay, we have electrical wire, okay? And whenever you put electricity to an electrical wire, you create an electromagnetic field, okay? It goes around the wire. A lot of people think the electromagnetic field emanates from inside the wire. That is not correct. The field and the electrons that are going into the wire actually spin around the wire. Okay? The more electrons you have, the higher the current, and also you're going to get heat. Okay? That's where I'm getting the impression. A lot of people have their theories on what is electricity, and I'm still kind of going down the route of what Eric Dollard said, is electrons is the resistance of electricity. It's like when you're in a car and you slam on your brakes and you hear that screeching noise. Well, that's what the electrons are. And when they're spinning around the wire and there's a resistance there, you're going to get heat, okay? And that's what happens a lot in the pulse motors. If you don't have it tuned just right, you're going to have a load up of the electrons in the wire or in the coil, and it's going to cause a heating issue. Now, when you get into the negative energy effect, like I was able to get, my coils were actually starting to cool down. And I actually had a motor run clockwise for 20 minutes. I thought the motor was going to stop. It bounced back and forth and then started going in the counterclockwise direction for another 30 minutes with almost no power left in the circuit. To this day, I cannot explain how that happened, but it did. And I did it on a number of occasions, so it wasn't like a fluke. So, and I also took a heat reading of my coil, and it went from the ambient air pressure and temperature. My coil cooled down 10 degrees. So I was pulling a negative energy effect back into that coil to keep the motor running. So, but is something else we're going to be talking about. So, in the Don Smith generator, so we're dealing with an electromagnetic field, okay? That's at a lower voltage now. When we're up in the kilovolt range, all right, and our frequency is in the kilohertz, I think that's right, kilohertz, okay, we're in a different power potential now. It's no longer regular power. We're dealing with an RF power source, which is in a radio frequency, okay, which runs on electrostatics, okay? So I've come to the conclusion that we are working with the electrostatic potential, okay? We're not dealing with regular power here. So different physics are involved in this now, okay? Now the electromagnetic fields that we're creating not necessarily have a lot of electrons in that field. Now, if they did, it would be creating a resistance in the wire, and that wire would be heating up. But because we're using a high kilohertz RF frequency, we don't get that heating effect on the wire. So, you know, I had my Don Smith generator. I had basically it's a Tesla coil. And, you know, I'm sending high voltage through it with a low amperage. But, you know, for me to get the lifter I did, there had to have been a certain amount of current going there. Now, it might have been 30 milliamps that I was pushing the voltage out. But when you get up to a high potential and you got a high frequency, I will have to investigate this, but I'm thinking the kilohertz has something to do in enhancing the amperage of the electrostatic field. Now, I'm going to have to look into this. I don't know. Maybe one of you out there knows, but I'm suspecting the kilohertz is actually what's driving the current of the static electricity. I think there's some validity to this. So we'll have to look into that. I don't know the answer to it. Maybe one of yous do. Then you can enlighten me. I don't know everything. I'm just, you know, I'm basically making a video log of all my experiences and what I'm learning and what's going through my head at this time, that I'm trying to figure out what I'm dealing with here. It is not regular power I'm dealing with here. I'm dealing with an RF frequency, an electrostatic potential. So this is the stuff Tesla was working on in Colorado Springs, and that's when he made the discovery of the longitudinal wave, which is a whole new story all on its own, which Eric Dollard is pretty much working on that stuff right now. I don't really want to get into that right now. I want to get more into the power source. He's more into creating a form of nuclear fusion reaction within a bulb. So you can look up his stuff. He's done some pretty amazing stuff. And also a lot of electrical theory I'm learning through him from his writings and his videos. So I am learning a little bit here. So if I make a mistake around, you know, here and there, okay, don't slaughter, put me on the chopping block. I'm learning like everybody else is. So This is what I feel I'm dealing with. RF frequency electrostatic field. Okay, so that's basically a radio. And the first radios that Tesla was working with is the spark gap radio. That's where it all started, using a spark gap. Because you got to understand, Tesla at that time did not have high speed switches. He had to make mechanical switches or a spark gap to create a high frequency. That's what all he had to work with was freaking brass and wood. Okay, so that's where he was at. He didn't have diodes. He didn't have, high powered capacitor banks. He had to make everything from scratch. Like he was actually probably a fairly good machinist, or he had people that worked for him that made the stuff for him. But so this is what I've been learning about creating the electrostatic field. And you'll see in my last video that I did, I showed how far that field was I was creating. So now we got to transform this RF field, static field, into a potential that we can power devices with it. Because in all honesty, all the devices after basically 1919, we've been stuck from 130-year-old technology. You know, the electric motors really haven't changed much. Even the AC/DC, technology gets a little better, but we're running on a wrong frequency. The Tesla was all on high voltage, high frequency. That's how you have over unity effect, all right? When you're working in the small, say 100 to 220, 50 to 60 hertz, you're never going to get over unity with it. It is the worst freaking power source to ever work with. It's dirty power. It's untuned. Not like, when you start working with the RF frequency, you can really tune that frequency to put out the exact power you need. You can't do that with the regular wall plug. You can't do it. So basically, this video is, trying to communicate with all the people who follow me on trying to figure out exactly what kind of potential I'm working at. And I think it's this. I'm working with a high voltage RF electrostatic field energy. That's what I'm working with. So if I'm wrong or you have any other ideas, please give me a comment. All right. And we can go from there. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Hey, shit. I learn shit too every day, right? I don't know everything. I'm like anybody else trying to figure this stuff out. And, I'm learning stuff from other people. Sometimes other people have answers too. When I'm doing it, I'm seeing the same effect. And I go, oh, yeah, that guy there, he had the same effect. And I'm doing it now for myself. And I go, okay, so what he's saying is actually true. There's actually truth to what this guy is saying. So, some stuff you're going to find in other realms, like other people out on YouTube have some of the answers that I'm looking for. So, Don Smith had some. Gerald Morin has a lot of other stuff that I've confirmed with him. And then you had Don Smith. There's a lot of stuff there with him that I figured out was true, but there's a lot of stuff that still I don't know. There's a lot of question marks. So I think we'll leave the video at this point here. If you guys have any ideas on exactly what type of power source I'm actually working with. So again, I think it's a high voltage RF frequency electrostatic field. And that's why I'm able to create a field, light up light bulbs within that field and not taxing the output of the source. And that's basically what Don Smith was talking about, and also Gerald Morin was saying a lot about the same. So when I'm playing with this high potential type of power, my chances of achieving over unity in my machine are greatly improved. So I think there is some real true science here that's real, and I don't think it's bullshit. So yeah, we'll leave it at that. If you liked the video, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give me a thumbs down. And if you haven't subscribed, bottom right corner, you'll see the icon there. You can subscribe to my channel. questions, comments, please send them in. If I don't get back to you within 24 hours, I apologize, and I got a lot of other things I'm doing other than YouTube, but I will get back to you. At least I'll make a comment. So, yeah, cheers, everybody, and we'll see everybody soon.